£59,390 is what it will cost you for the BMW i4 I'm going to drive in this video, the eDrive 40 M Sport model. Lease it instead of buying and you'll be looking at payments of over £700 per month with a hefty deposit on top of that. You could easily lease or buy two MG4s for the price of this one BMW. So, is it worth it? If we set aside that controversial grille for a minute, I think the BMW i4 is a good looking car. It's everything you'd expect from a modern BMW, and I'd not be surprised in the slightest if we start to see them filling up the company car park. Even that grille is softening as time goes on, probably in part because BMW keep putting bigger and bigger grilles on everything. You look at something like the i7, which is more grille than car, and all of a sudden the i4 doesn't look quite so bad. The interior is very familiar, being lifted straight out of the standard internal combustion engine powered 4 Series, but that's not exactly a bad thing, is it? BMW are really good at creating comfortable, good quality interiors that feel solid and have that premium feel about them, and the i4 is absolutely no exception to that. I think you'll struggle to find any other car in this segment with a better interior, and it's definitely one of the i4's strong points. The car I'm testing in this video is the eDrive 40 M Sport, and I think this is the model that most people will end up buying or leasing. 0 to 62 in 5.7 seconds makes it no slouch, and a WLTP range of 351 miles from its 84 kWh battery will be more than enough for most drivers' needs. I can see it being very popular indeed with the company car crowd. It also comes in eDrive 35 guys, starting from $49,995 in some of the lower trim levels. A 70 kWh battery provides a 276 mile WLTP range, and 0 to 62 in a still very respectable 6 seconds means that if you have a lower budget, the 35 also looks like a pretty good choice. And then of course there's the bonkers M50 model. With 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds, it will definitely be the choice of those with performance high up their priority list. The M50 will cost you though, starting from £71,085. Like most German cars, the i4 options list is long and complex. You'll spend a fair bit of time and money getting it to where you need to be if you're fussy about options. There's no one-size-fits-all approach here. It's a completely different world to the likes of MG that try to keep it simple with a handful of model options. The i4 you can have in all sorts of shapes and sizes to fit your needs. Here's a challenge for you. Go onto the BMW website and spec up an i4. Tell me in the comments just how expensive it comes to when you've added on the options that you would choose. I think you'll be quite surprised how much more than the list price you end up at. So here we are in the BMW i4, and straight away the first thing you notice when you get in this car is it's a BMW 4 Series. It's all very familiar. You definitely won't feel out of place in here. It's exactly what you'd expect from a BMW. Very different to the i3 which went before it, which, you know, when you got in, it all felt very futuristic and very sort of, you know, like driving a spaceship in a very shouty, oh, this is an electric car kind of way, whereas this is not like that at all. This is for people that want a BMW, and they're not actually particularly that fussed, I don't think, about what powers it. So they want that sort of premium BMW experience, and that's all they're really fussed about. I don't think they'll be particularly bothered about the drivetrain. They'll probably be quite happy that they pay less company car tax on this than a diesel one, and that will probably be the primary driver for them. But that's no bad thing. I remember driving a petrol 4 Series of the previous generation when the i3 was in getting repaired, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that it was a really nice car. So you know, I think we're starting with a really good base here, and straight away I think you can tell that this is a premium product. This car was very kindly lent to me by GRIDSERVE using their test drive service. As you may have seen in my previous videos where I drove a Leaf, a Tesla Model Y and a Polestar 2, whether you're looking to buy or lease a specific EV, have a number of them in mind, or are just trying to work out whether EVs are for you and you'd like to give one a go for the first time, why not go along to one of the GRIDSERVE electric forecourts and take some test drive? They're 100% brand agnostic, and you aren't going to get the hard sell from them. They're going to be more than happy to arrange a lease deal for you if you like, through their leasing arm, obviously, but there's absolutely no obligation, and in my opinion, from what I've seen of them, they are genuinely interested in helping people begin their EV journey, whatever that looks like for them. The test drive fleet is always growing, and the booking process is dead easy with loads of availability at both the sites in Braintree and in Norwich. And they plan to roll this out at every electric forecourt site as they open more. Give it a go. There's a link in the description to the section on their website where you can browse the available cars and book a test drive today. And it certainly has the performance to match. I mean, that wasn't even half throttle, and it certainly picks up and gets itself down the road. It's got a very interesting noise generator on it. It sounds almost a bit more like it's trying to sound more like an engine than the sort of futuristic electric motor sound. I think rather than just having the one sort of constant tone, it almost sounds a bit like it's revving, which is most bizarre. Not what you normally get from an EV with a sound generator.
Yeah. If you have the right sounds, you feel connected. What we are trying to do in the car is to humanize the technology, humanize the experience, humanize your journey.
Cars move people from A to B in space, but we also believe that cars can move people emotionally. And this is the vision of BMW Iconic Sounds Electric.
We give people an experience, and we give them an identity as well. This is a BMW. This will sound like nobody else.
We are truly excited because the BMW Iconic Sounds Electric are about to hit the road this year.
So I think the comparison in the title, you know, is this worth the amount of two MG4s? It's a bit of a silly one. You're not going to have many MG4 and i4 buyers sort of overlapping. I do think that they're very different cars for very different markets, and certainly with this, you straight away the sort of premium quality, the sound deadening in the cabin, the materials, all that stuff, as you would expect, is absolutely top notch. It's everything you'd expect from BMW. But make no mistake, everything is much more premium than you'll find in the MG, but it is twice as expensive, especially leasing. So GRIDSERVE have kindly lent me this car to make this video and to do this test drive. Provided example leasing costs for both the MG that I drove in the previous video you watched and this i4, and it is almost exactly twice as expensive for the same lease term, the same mileage, the same all that stuff. It is twice the monthly cost. So you are talking about twice as much car for, you know, is it twice as much car for the money? I don't know. I mean, certainly it definitely feels premium. Everything feels lovely, and there's definitely less wind noise. I'd say there's still a bit of road noise at higher speeds, but definitely less wind noise in the cabin. One of the negative points, as always, is yet again we've got touchscreen controls for the climate. I do have permanently on the screen controls for both sides, so it's a little bit less faff than the MG was, and so it's a little bit more thought out. But I mean, just give me some buttons. As I keep saying, we've got some physical switches here for sort of core functions, skipping tracks on the infotainment, volume control, and controls for the sort of the rear and front demisting. But apart from that, again, we're devoid of physical buttons and opting to put the touchscreen in charge of everything, which, as you know, I think is foolish, but what can you do? It's very much the way things seem to be going. We've got a decent amount of regen as we slow down. I don't know if it's configurable, but it certainly seems to have a decent amount as standard, which is always good. I don't like it when car manufacturers try to make their EVs feel like internal combustion cars by limiting the amount of regen by default. So I do think that is good. The navigation system certainly seems to have had a bit of an upgrade over the i3, although it's very similar. You can tell it's based on the same sort of code base, but they've definitely pared it up a bit, I guess, allowing for the bigger screen and stuff. We have a very funky instrument cluster. Obviously, you know, following this trend for digital instrument clusters, we've got the map in the middle and speedo on one side. I imagine that's configurable for different modes and stuff. So it seems to be the way things are. I'm not sure it's strictly necessary, but it's quite nice to look at. So it looks like the average consumption from when the person drove this to Norwich from Braintree this morning is 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which is quite impressive. Car of this size and performance. And I have covered 8.2 miles in it so far, and it's averaging 3 miles per kilowatt hour. And we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how that changes over time. But I think 4 miles per kilowatt hour isn't bad at all for a car like this. I think that's definitely, you know, acceptable. I'm not one to get too hung up on efficiency, but obviously efficiency being directly proportional to range. I appreciate the importance of it, especially for longer distance work. One thing I do notice is we are firmly in the land of the optional extra. I pressed the wrong button trying to bring the trip computer information up on here, and it tells me that the high beam assistant function is acquirable if I want to subscribe to it in the connected drive store. Now, BMW have come under a lot of fire for this recently. All the talk of subscribing to heated seats and all that stuff, and it very much seems to be the direction they want to take things in, where, you know, not only is everything an extra, but for quite a lot of it, you can subscribe to it. You don't buy it, you don't own it, you just pay for it while you use it. The time you have the car, and then when you sell the car to someone else, the subscription is yours, not theirs. And I think it's silly, and I don't think it's the way forward, but I do understand why they think it's the way forward, because there's a lot of money to be made from it. But I think I would much rather have the old style options list, although I'm sure that lease companies and stuff like that would like it the way BMW are taking it, so maybe that's one of the drivers. You can keep those lease monthlies down by keeping some of that stuff off the list price. And then, of course, you know, it's up to you whether you actually want to subscribe to those features, because actually, historically, you know, if you're leasing a car, and you want optional extras on it, normally what happens is you pay for that option over your lease term. So, you know, if it's £1,000 worth of extras, that 1,000 gets divided by the number of months that you're paying your lease for, and you pay for all of it over the term, because the funder's view is that the optional extras don't add that much to the residual value, so they end up charging you more or less the full amount for them. Whereas I guess with a subscription-based service, you wouldn't have that problem. So I certainly see why, you know, in a market where leasing is more and more prevalent, it might well be the way forward, but it still doesn't really sit right with me. So as I approach the electric forecourt in Braintree, my time with the BMW i4 comes to an end. And to answer the question from the title, is it worth 2 MG4s? And I would say, I mean, if you're looking for something just a little bit more than a car, you know, if all you want from life is a car, the MG4 is absolutely brilliant. It's superb and it's worth every penny. But if you want performance, comfort, refinement, all that stuff that comes with, you know, buying a car like this, I would say that this is absolutely superb. I mean, I'm struggling to find negatives with it. The interior quality, the ride comfort, the performance, the range, the consumption, all that stuff seems to be absolutely spot on. We're stuck to that average of 4 miles per kilowatt hour for this journey, which means it's done that there and back with 2 different drivers. And I think that for a car like this, with this amount of performance, and I was using it at times, we didn't film everything, I would say that's pretty good. And I would say that the i4 is well worth a look. If you've got that kind of budget and you're looking for something with both, you know, range, performance, comfort, refinement, the whole package, I would say it's definitely one you need to be considering, and you should probably consider taking a test drive. And what better place to do that than at GRIDSERVE? But I've thoroughly enjoyed driving this today. I think it's absolutely brilliant, and it would definitely be on my shortlist if I had that kind of money to spend and was looking for, you know, a car like this. It would definitely be on the shortlist for sure. I know you'll tell me in the comments, oh, what about the Model 3 performance? But I honestly, I don't think they're in the same league. Performance-wise, they probably are, but you know, the way this thing's screwed together and the sort of refinement and all that, Tesla doesn't come close. And I know you're going to totally shoot me for that, but it is true. And that is that. There's no two words about it. Well, that was my test drive in the BMW i4. I was actually really impressed with it. I think BMW are going to sell absolutely loads of them. The comparison to the MG4 at the start of this video obviously is a bit silly. They're very different cars for very different people with very different budgets, and I'm not sure there's going to be that much cross comparison between them. About the only time I think people might directly compare them is when you see on like a salary sacrifice car list, the MG4 being the cheap option, the i4 being the one you might push the boat out, stretch your monthly budget for, but I think in reality most people aren't going to be comparing the two. Let me know what you think in the comments. Does the i4 tempt you, or can you just not come to terms with the cost? Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.